All right, MYB community, I'm excited. Episode 176 of the Minding Your Business podcast, entrepreneurship, real estate, trending news. There's no business like minding your own. We're here. Today is Tuesday, July the 21st of 2020, and excited to just keep things moving. I hope everything's going well in your life as well can be. And know that every day is another opportunity for you to do what we all seek to do, which is be a little bit better for ourselves, a little bit better for our families, and a little bit better for our communities. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast, 5 star on Apple. Helps us continue to grow our reach of the podcast and wherever you get your podcast. And of course, you can always go to the mybpodcast.com. So again, hope you're having a great day. I'm excited for today's guest that is joining us. And I'll get into some of my excitement here in a little bit, including a picture that I was able to see that it includes a hat that has our slogan on it, which you always love that. Yes. So listen, Ange Alex joins us. She is the author of Unravel. And I want to get into that even some more. It's Unravel, finding complete peace and total happiness in your life. And we want to talk about that from a lifestyle standpoint. But Angie, thank you so much for joining. This is incredible. I'm excited to have you. And I really appreciate you being here on the Minding Your Business podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, excited to have you. So let's get into it.
Okay.
Tell us, who is Angie? Who is Ange Alex? I love that name, by the way.
Thank
That's
you.
That's a really cool name.
Thank you.
So who is Ange Alex, and how did you get to where you are today?
Well, that's a really long story.
It's a loaded question, right?
But we'll try to squeeze it into this podcast.
Sure.
Well, I just turned 42 yesterday, so
congratulations, happy birthday!
Thank you. Woo! It's been an amazing journey. I have to say, I'm super humble and grateful that I've been given all the opportunities I've been given in my life, and this includes hardships and tragedies and those things that we like to call tragedies and pain, because it really did form who I was.
Sure.
So the book Unravel, Finding Happiness by Coming Completely Undone, is really, it's a journey through my own personal life. And then there's a couple little stories in there about other people that I've known. I think the basis came to me when I was thinking about all the times that we say in our lives as we get older. When you're younger, you don't really think about things as much as you do as you get older. When you get older, you start kind of thinking about there's this urge to do, this necessity to, I got to do something. I better be something. I've got to do this, and I got to be better at this, or even like getting a house, do that. Get this job. I got to do that. And there's this sense of like everything we have to do. And it's really overwhelming. It's like, how much weight can you carry in your life? Right. And then you combine that with, all of this weight that we've already carried, all of these ideas and opinions about ourselves that were kind of stitched into us, if you want to call it that, since we were tiny. And most of it's not even us. Most of it's not even our thoughts. It's somebody else's thoughts about us.
Right.
And so
exactly.
we get to our 30s, our 40s. Maybe this happens when you're younger. If it happens when you're younger, God bless you. But for some of us, it doesn't happen until you're older, that you start to realize that everything about that is wrong. Everything about that is false. You don't need to do anything. What you need is to undo everything. You need to pull apart every part of your life, pull apart everything, and restart from the beginning. When people say all the time, oh my God, she's falling apart, and it's a bad thing, right? Or he's coming apart at the seams, and that's always to be looked upon as like such a tragedy. But in reality, if you got down to it, that's the best thing that could happen to you, to fall apart, let it all come off of you. And then you have the strength to rebuild yourself in the image that you truly want, the image that reflects your true self, that true love, worthiness, just who you really are. And I think, that's the essence of the book right there.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate you sharing that, Angie, because
Yes.
I want to get into when you refer to it as coming undone, right?
Yes.
Um, because I agree. We often have, we get taught from an early age of all these things to care about. And I'm thinking of, today's time, especially
Oh,
that in
wow.
these
I can't
last four
imagine nowadays.
months, if you go back and you ask people January 1st, if you and were talking then, and we said, you know what, Angie, I think I need to plan for a worldwide pandemic this year. I got this hunch that there's going to be a worldwide pandemic and I need
None
to
of us
hunker down,
did, right?
right? You would have cracked up.
Yeah.
So for the last 4 months, all of us have been dealing with, new words in our vocabulary, social distancing,
Oh,
quarantine,
yeah.
all that type of thing. And so, kind of talk about it from that aspect, how we all have now been impacted for, at different levels by what's currently going on, and that understanding of self and what you really find joy in. Because listen, a
Yes.
lot of people are listening to this. They're entrepreneurs. They're looking to start up businesses. All that is great. They're doing, maybe they're doing well in the workforce, maybe not as much. But we all chase these things, right? We're all guilty
Always.
of, I got to get up because I got to pay this bill and I've got to do this and I've got to launch this bit. We got all these tasks and things that we do, and that we don't really always find, true happiness and joy in what we're doing. And so they just
Exactly.
create stress points and things like that. So is that subject matter that you touch on in the book in terms of,
Yeah.
how we can evolve from that?
Oh, for sure, for sure. I think in the book it kind of takes you through like a beginning to end kind of scenario, I guess. So it starts with talking about when we're children and when we're growing up. We're knit together in the image that our parents want for us. And I'm a
Yes.
mom. I'm guilty of this. I've had
Hmm.
hopes and dreams for my children since they were born that
Right.
in reality aren't their hopes and their dreams. So,
Yes,
that's a big part of
it
growing up
is.
is that you have these beliefs and these ideas that were never really yours. So by the time you get to be a teenager, the story that you tell of yourself isn't actually your story. It's your father's hopes, it's your mother's fears, it's everything put into you that's not even you. So it's most of us are never given the skills we need to cope with that, to unravel that, and to find out who we truly are. So you
Right.
fast forward to this year when we have this pandemic that I've never seen in my life before. I've never
Of course.
experienced anything like
Yeah,
this
none of us have
before.
seen anything like
It's
this.
insane. It's but
It's wild.
it's kind of funny to me because I was thinking about it when it first started happening, and
Yeah.
everybody was going on lockdown all across the world. Like, not just in America. This wasn't something that just hit us here in America. This was everywhere.
Right.
And I was thinking that it was interesting because how many of us up until this point, all through 2019, how many of us lived really busy lives with no opportunity to check ourselves, with no
Right.
opportunity to look ourselves in the mirror and say, wait a second, am I doing this because it makes me happy? Am I doing this because I feel I need to? What's happening? Why am I living this life? And I think so many people are saying, if I just had more time, I'd exercise. If I just had more time, I'd do this. If I just had more time, I'd be the person I want to be. So the universe was like, really? You want time, do you? Okay,
Here
so
you go.
what you
You
got
get
now?
plenty of
You got a
time
bunch
here
of time. You got all
with your
this
family.
time. Yeah, like, I mean, unprecedented amount of time. Like, so many people didn't have to worry about the pressures of work, the pressures of school, the pressures that we had built around us as a kind of like a security wall to ourselves.
Yes.
And we have this amazing opportunity right now to retrospectively look at ourselves and say, wait a second, how was I living before this pandemic? How was I truly happy? Was I
Yes.
chasing things that felt good? Or was I doing what I thought I had to do? One, or
Right.
even worse, was I living a life based on other people's opinions of me? Was I
Yes.
was I too scared to try that dream I want because everybody told me I was not good enough, or,
Right.
I mean, how much of that do we carry around? If I did, I know there's other people.
Yeah, I
So
think most people,
yeah,
Angie, are like that. They, like you mentioned earlier, they get their kind of, not to say marching orders, but they get their direction from their parents. And I
absolutely.
think, I used to be very hard on baby boomers and that sort of thing, but I think they meant well based on the
Yeah.
experiences they had as children, right?
Yeah.
During a lot of political unrest.
Oh
You
my
got
gosh. Yeah.
civil rights, you had Vietnam and all that type of thing. They saw
Yeah.
a lot of different things at an early age, and so then they got into a huge protection mode.
For
And so
sure.
then what
Yeah.
happened with Gen X, millennial, and then now Gen Y is there's this protection, right? Let me put this structure in place. Let me really help guide the guidance that maybe they didn't get from great generation parents. Um,
Yes.
Now they want to put this guidance in place, and in some ways that's helped in the
Mm-hmm.
sense of again helping people stay down a certain narrow path and maybe
Right.
minimize the impact of influencers, right?
Right.
But on the other end, what happens is it becomes so dogmatic that then you guide and you're so strict on guiding someone's path that you don't allow them to develop their path for
Right.
themselves. And
They're
I think,
here for
Angie,
themselves. Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
and I'd like to get your thoughts on this comment because as people do that, Angie, in your experience, have you seen where as parents do that, they're interjecting their own self, so they're trying to live vicariously through their
Yes.
children,
Yes.
and or they are so protective because they want them to go down a path. Like I think of this
Mm-hmm.
for college, right?
Yeah.
Um, it works well for early adopters, like a lot of things, right? The early adopters kind of see the most benefit. And then over time, as more people get into it, the benefit gets diluted. And so
Absolutely.
you send people down this pathway. And that's just what happened with student loan debt. There was this
Oh
whole
my gosh.
generation of driving people. And so now, like you said, people, they get to their mid 20s, 30s, 40, and they realize they're on a pathway that wasn't theirs. But
Yeah.
then to change that pathway, they are straddled now with $70,000 in student loan debt from an
Oh yeah.
undergraduate degree that they really didn't want and really are not maybe even using. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on kind of that pathway of how we tend to do that
Mm-hmm.
sometimes as parents,
We
and
do. Yeah.
then we inflict that on our children.
I think like I talk about in the book too, there's this is all done mostly most of the time. This sort of stitching that we're doing with our children is done out of love most of the time. There
Right.
are, a lot of unfortunate incidences where a child is made up of, regret and anger and rage from their parents who weren't, really working together or never even wanted them to begin with, that sort of stuff. So that person has
Yeah.
a lot more to undo
A lot to
and a lot
overcome.
harder
Yeah.
time. But most of us were fortunate enough to have loving parents. It was all done out
Sure.
of love. They only wanted the best for us.
Yeah.
And I think like for me, my father showed his love by buying me things. He was not a
Yeah.
good communicator at all,
Sure.
nor was his family. His family, no talks, no hugs, no I love yous, none of that. And he was born in the early 40s in an extremely religious family in Oregon, and he was poor. So he got his first job when he was 10 and just worked his tail off. He was extremely brilliant. So he went to Oregon Tech right out of high school and was immediately hired by IBM in the
Yeah.
60s, and had an amazing job. Like he did that because of where he came from. He was poor, so he no longer wanted to be poor.
Right.
And so for him, that was what love was, was showing,
Wow.
was buying, making sure I had everything I ever wanted, and then some. And that was done with love. You know what I mean?
Right.
That was done with love. But looking back, I would have probably just liked, a hug or an I love
Yeah.
you or something,
Yeah.
So you think about all of that, like it's all done out of love and out of good, but it's forming you. It still is forming you. We're doing
Right.
it to our own children, and we don't even realize it half the time. And it's always like, because we want better for them, we want the best for them, we don't want them to suffer like we suffered, but we
Yeah.
also have to realize that their path is their path, and they're
Right.
going to have to find out who they are and love that person who they are. Otherwise, they're never going to be truly happy. If you don't truly love who you are, you'll never
Yes.
be happy, you know?
Right. Exactly.
So
And so then no amount of money or no amount of prestige or popularity
none of it.
or things will ever truly be fulfilling. They'll be
Yeah.
fleeting and maybe, they'll be
Yeah.
very short term. But,
Yes.
in terms of long term, I agree with you. You're
you
exactly
you
right.
just you have to find your
No
own
doubt.
voice. You have to find why you're here and what you're here for and what is so special about you. And you can't do that, like, for kids too, without the ability or the information or the knowledge to understand how wonderful they are.
Yeah.
You find, like, you see this sometimes in very, very privileged children.
Yeah.
They're all wrapped up in what their parents do, right? They'll be like,
Yeah.
my dad did this, or, it's like it's not even them. They're not even proud of themselves. And
Right.
how are we teaching people to find that love for yourself and to find that pride if we're just knitting ourselves up with all of this nonsense that doesn't even matter?
Yeah.
And it just
Exactly.
keeps building. That's what happens over time. We keep building, and we're just like a bigger and bigger ball of mess by the time we're in
Right.
our
Right.
20s.
Right.
And somehow you're gonna have to unravel.
Yeah.
And either, like I mentioned in the book too, there are two types of unraveling. There's the kind that happens to you, which
Yeah.
we give names like tragedies to. I
Hmm.
had one of those. I lost my daughter, Kylie, and
Oh my goodness.
yeah, on Thanksgiving Day, of all the
Oh
days,
no.
it's Thanksgiving
Oh,
Day.
Angie.
Yes, and it
Yeah.
was one of the worst days of my life, to be honest with you. That was in 2011. But
Yeah.
as I know it now, that was the most beautiful unraveling experience for me, because up until that point, I was holding on to these things that weren't really me. I was
Yeah.
clinging to an identity that wasn't me, that didn't bring me happiness,
Hmm.
that was gave me massive anxiety because I was trying to be something for everybody else.
Yeah.
And when that happened, um, I say, like, she pulled the final string. She allowed me to fall apart, completely fall apart. And in
Yeah.
return, I was able to knit myself back into who I really wanted to be, somebody that I truly wanted to be, a caring person, a loving person, somebody that um, I could be proud of, not somebody that I thought I needed to be. And so it
Yeah.
was a tragedy, yes, and it hurt, and I took
My
time to
goodness.
grieve. And there was
Sure.
many a Thanksgivings after that was hard for me,
Of
but
course.
I unraveled. I unraveled, and it made me a better person. And so that's the kind of unraveling that we don't have a say in. It's just, it happens,
Yeah.
and we need to work through that too, and take time to grieve and take time to heal. And then the other kind of unraveling is even actually harder. It's the kind we have to do for ourselves. the
Yeah.
the one when you know there's something in your life that's bothering you, there's something that's hurting you, there's a pain maybe from the past that you haven't healed, and it takes a tremendous amount of courage and strength to be able to pull your own string and fall apart. And
Yeah.
that's what most people have to do, and it's very scary. It's very hard for people because both unravelings are painful. um,
Right.
but but like I tell everybody, if you if you have something that you need to unravel that you're afraid is going to hurt, and you're afraid of that pain that's going to come out, you need
Yeah.
to be honest with yourself and know that you're already in pain. You're already hurting right now.
Right.
So you might as well just pull the string, get it over with, fall apart, and then start to love yourself, you know?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And first thing, Angie, as a someone that's got three daughters, right? And my
Yes.
daughters are elementary age. I've got
Oh,
10,
okay, they're
9,
little.
and 7. Um, I could not imagine, that anything related to what you've been through with what you mentioned with your daughter. My heart, goes out to you and your family for that. Even though I know you've gone through that and yeah, and that sort of thing, and it's been some time. I just, my heart just goes out to you,
Thank
in all
you.
honesty, for that. Um, and your strength that you're exuding coming out of that. And I imagine that was kind of, the beginnings, like you
That
described,
was
of
the
this
beginning. That was
unraveling.
my first real unraveling, for sure. Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so you get to this point where you have the book. Um, and your family's been through other, situations and things like that as well that I've, read about that was shared with me. You know, what gave you the strength to share in that regard? Oftentimes, like we were talking about earlier,
Yeah.
we keep those situations to ourselves, right? We bottle
Oh yeah.
those up, and in this social media age, everything's about the image, right? So it's
Hmm.
easy to give off an image that everything is great, and I've always had wins, and I've never
I
suffered it.
know.
You know what I mean? Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's easy to do. I mean,
it is.
some celebrities have made their whole career where it's like they don't really do anything. They just
Yeah.
take pictures every day and show videos, and
Right.
their business is just being a celebrity, right? And
Right.
showing how great things can be, and that sort of thing. You're right, it takes a lot of strength and courage, and intestinal fortitude to then expose yourself to then help other people.
Yes.
So
Yes. I
walk
think
me
for
through
me,
that.
yeah, I think for me, to be honest with you, I think this always been, um, it's always just been my destiny because I've been through so much in my life and in a rather short amount of time when I was growing up and
Yeah.
quite a bit younger, that I could have either become bitter or better. And for whatever reason, I chose to become better for it and take it as what I could learn from it, and
Yeah.
knowing full well that all of these things in our lives, all of these things that hurt us or that led us to a different path, they can provide guidance to other people if you share your story. If you
Right.
keep it, if I never talked about it, I could never help anybody. So if
Right.
I talk about it and if I share my story and if I write my stories out and somebody reads it and says, oh my God, that was what I needed. I had no idea all this time I've been holding on to something I shouldn't have, or I just didn't know how to do it, or whatever it is. Like that never would come if I didn't tell the story. So I think
Yeah.
it was always just a part of my destiny to be a storyteller and to be able to look back with honesty at my life and all the hurt and all the pain, all the times I cried myself to sleep over
Yeah.
whatever it was I was going through in my life at that time,
Yeah.
all made me um, more able to tell the story and to be more sympathetic to other people in their stories too, because everybody has a story.
Yeah, exactly. And part of your story with for you and your husband is your lifestyle. So in
Right.
part of this unraveling, I love to hear because you guys are doing something
Yes.
I would love to do it here at some point, which is
Yeah.
be able to live mobile and
Yeah.
we live a fairly minimalist. I mean, my wife and I, but you guys are really on that pathway where
Yeah. We're definitely
your
minimalists.
lifestyle, yeah, exactly, your lifestyle has really contributed to um, being able to find that true joy and that true happiness. So talk about that pathway and
Sure.
unpack that for us, if you would,
Sure.
Angie, that
So I
that
think,
pathway of letting things go to your lifestyle today.
yes, that's actually a really big deal because the me that existed when I was a teenager or early 20s, I was somewhat of a hoarder. I kept everything. Like I wanted,
Yeah.
I just felt I have a very, very crazy memory. So I
Yeah.
remember everything. I remember the feeling with that said memory. So I would hold on to like movie ticket stubs and any little thing because I could look at it and feel that feeling again. So for
Yeah.
me, I held on to everything. I had my grandma's furniture. I had, oh my gosh, my house was made up of stuff, just stuff. And
Yeah.
to me, in my mind, it meant something. Um, but as I started to grow up and started to realize about happiness and what that meant to me. I was blessed with, three beautiful children. They're teenagers now, but
Yeah.
they are like those became my true riches, my true joys.
Yeah.
Things started to become a little less important to me. I got the things, all the things I wanted when I was younger. I achieved them. I got the house with the white picket fence. I had the two cars. I had the three kids, and yet I was still um, like, this is it. This is this is what we waited for. This is when we were a kid and we say, this is what we want. I'm
Right.
going to be married with this and this, you know, like
Right.
this is it. I've arrived. Like,
Yeah.
wow. So I think as we started to unravel after, you know, my big unraveling event with my daughter,
Right.
um, uh, we ended up moving to Boston to be close to my husband's mother, who was dying of cancer at the time. And
Yeah.
she said, you know, come and say goodbye to me. I'm not going to live
Wow.
anymore. I'm done fighting. And so we went there, and it changed my life. We decided to move there, and it changed my life because up until that point, I had been living in this one city. I had
Hmm.
businesses I made in this one city. I had friendships that had been there since I was a kid. And
Yeah.
it was, I always thought that was going to be me. That's who I was always going to be. But as soon as I left and I gave myself the freedom to step outside of that box that I either put myself in or that I was put into,
Yeah.
I, I just tremendously grew. Like my talents, my gifts, my whole frame of reference for living just exploded because I was now free to really be me without that whole hometown, you know, vibe, I guess.
Right.
And that, so that was like, that was huge. That was a big deal because up until then, I always thought I was going to have my house. I was always going to, you know, have the job that I had, and I was always going to be this person that I had made myself to be. And, you know, she passed away, and
Yeah.
we ended up, you know, moving away again, and it just, you know, going back home, I just remember looking outside my window at my yard and writing, you know, a check for the next month's mortgage and thinking, this is insane. This is an
Right.
insane amount of money for something that, like, I don't even want to be here half the time. I want to go, I want to see, I want to explore, I want to soak up every ounce of this life I can with my family while I can.
Right.
And I'm stuck here paying $2,000 a month to just live here. You know,
Right.
this is absurd. So it just hit me one day that what people do when they retire is they
Hmm.
buy an RV and they cruise around the country. And
Right.
I was like, why can't I do that? You know,
Right.
I
You don't
don't
have to
have to
wait
be
to retire.
70.
Right. You can do
Yeah,
it
I
now.
don't have to be 70 years old
Right.
to do this. Let's do this now. And I just started
Right.
dreaming of it. I started coming up with
No
like
doubt.
how magical it was going to be for my children and all of this stuff. And I brought it to my husband's attention, and I said, I think this is what I think we should do. And
What
he
was his
said,
response?
yeah, this is how he says, you know, how he responds to me about everything I want to do, because I have crazy ideas. He
Yeah.
says, you're crazy. And then he's like, okay, listen, if you can find an RV that's in our price range that we can pay cash for, because we don't want to bill, we don't want to worry about all that,
Right.
then I'll do it. I'll go on this adventure with you.
Yeah.
And I found out later he said that because he didn't think I would do it. He didn't
Right.
think it was really possible.
He tried to call
So
your bluff.
I know I say, oh, ye of little faith. But I really, really wanted it so bad that I dreamt about it all the time. I like just created that feeling and I manifested it due to that like whole dream, visualize, feel thing. I did it, and I found one. It was not only in our price range, but I talked the guy down too. So we even got it cheaper, and we went and we bought an RV. We sold everything we could. What we couldn't sell, we gave away,
Yeah.
and we hit the road. That was 5 years ago, and I remember, I'll never forget. My youngest was 8 at the time, and he had his own room with these big Lego tables that my husband made for him. He
Yeah.
loved Legos, and they were like he was so creative. He's a very, very creative person, but he made all these little Lego cities all
Yeah.
across these 2 giant tables. And we
Right.
would decorate for them. Like we would decorate for Halloween in the little cities. We would decorate for Christmas. It was it was a big deal for him. And I
Right.
remember he was sitting there as we were like packing up our house. He was sitting there staring at his Lego tables. And I just felt overwhelming guilt. And I felt like I was being selfish, and I felt like I was going to ruin his life. And I said to him, are you sure that you're okay with packing up all these Legos, all your towns, all your friends, and packing them up? We can't bring them with us. We've got 250 square feet. We
Right.
can't bring them with us. Are you
Right.
okay? Are you okay with doing this? And I will never forget, because this was like my green light to go. He said, "Are you saying that if I pack all this stuff up and I put it away, I get to spend more time with you and Daddy?" And I was like, wow, that's what that's all he wanted. He didn't
Wow.
care about the Legos. And
Yeah.
I said, yeah, definitely, this is the right decision for us. And we hit the road that January.
Yeah.
And we circled the whole United States that year.
Really.
And
Wow.
it was, I'm going to tell you what, like, life changing to be able to have this dream that seems like it's so far fetched. How would this even work out? How would I even do this? And then to actually be doing it. We drove through, saw the, Grand Canyon, we saw Yellowstone, we saw the Badlands, we did the Redwoods. It was just, oh, I mean, the memories I have with my kids will always live with me. And
Yeah.
then we decided to keep doing it because we liked it so much.
Right.
We just decided that, initially when we left the first year, we said we're going to find a place that we love so much that it'll feel like home, and
Yeah. You
we'll
just stay
move
there.
there.
Yeah.
We'll stay
Yeah.
there. We'll love it so much. But we found too many places that we loved too much, and we made too many
Right.
friends. So
Right.
it's like, wow, what do you do now? We can't just choose a place yet. So we kept going. And then the most magical thing about it, like I had mentioned before, was being, coming from a hoarder-ish life. I let go of everything. I let go of all those things that just didn't mean anything to me. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's not. It's unfortunate because, like, another part of the little stitching when we're younger is believing that things equal worth or things equal success, and it's not true, because you can lose all of that in a drop of a dime. You can lose your title, you can lose your money, you can lose anything that you think equals success or worth in a matter of minutes. Look what happened when the real estate market crashed,
Exactly.
years ago. People lost everything. And right now, a pandemic, how many people have lost everything that they thought was so worth something, their worth. So for me, that was crucial in understanding that things are things. They're not who I am. They don't represent
Exactly.
my worth. And if I can soak up every moment of this life I've been given and see everything that I can see and do everything I can do, I'm going to do it. And if I'm blessed enough to do it with my family too right now, then I'm definitely going to do that too, because they're going to grow up. My kids are going to they're going to grow up. They're going to take their own path, like we talked about before. Might not
Right.
be the path I want them to take,
Yeah.
but they're going to take a path that suits them and serves them, and I'll support them for that. But this time that I have right now with them is precious. It's I'll never get it back. So for now,
Exactly.
we're going to be nomads and cruise around wherever we want to go
Dig
and
that.
see what we want to see. And I think a lot of people out there feel that they want
Yes.
that freedom. And this pandemic has kind of showed them too that maybe there's something more to this life, and maybe we should try a little harder to invest in experiences and not just things.
Yeah, exactly, Angie. And one of the things when you talk about though that last point is people when this first happened, everybody wanted to quickly get to the back to normal, right?
Oh
What is the
yeah,
new
everybody. Yes.
normal going to be? Which
Yeah.
normal for them is getting back to that rat ways as they knew it
Yeah.
before,
It's
right?
crazy. Like
And
they
that's
got
what
they got their keys to freedom and they want to go back.
right, exactly. And so people even now, I think still they have a this hope that we're going to get back. At some point, there's going to
Yeah.
be a vaccine, and then we're going to get back to how things were before,
Yeah.
right? And that takes a lot of different meaning for a lot of different people. But
Sure.
I think
Yeah.
one of the overarching meanings, Angie, is to get back to that rat race, get back to my
Yeah.
pursuit of things, right?
Pursuit of
That
things. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, exactly, and not those experiences. And
I
so
think
I
so.
think it's
That's
critical.
unfortunate, isn't it? Do you
Yeah,
think that you can go through an experience like this, where possibly you've had loved ones affected by this?
yeah,
Maybe you've actually lost somebody to this,
yeah,
and to think that instead of using this time to look at yourself and see how beautiful and wonderful you are right now. You're not broken. You don't need fixing. You just need to correct a few things. You're not broken, but
Right.
to just, use this time to analyze yourself and appreciate every single thing, all the beauty that there is out there, all the beauty that's your family and your job. If you're blessed enough to have a job, why would you want to get back to the way things were? People were not happy. I bet if you did a survey, there was a lot of unhappy people
Oh yeah,
in
there were.
2019. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
no doubt about it. Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. And I think there were studies that showed that there are a lot of people that while they were able to plan for the future and do different things, they just weren't happy. They just,
No,
they
no.
it was hard to find joy in the
Yes.
things that they were doing and what they counted as, priority, for
Yeah.
themselves. And so it's
I agree.
it's just a funny thing.
I
Yeah, it
think
is.
that, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that when I was growing up, a lot of it was focused on future. Like
Yeah.
you're kind of fed this belief that if you don't focus on the future won't work out, which isn't true. Everything's working out all the time. But
Right.
also, you're forgetting about the present. Like really all you have is the present. So for it to be so focused on the future is really missing the whole point. And I think, I remember growing up, you always heard about, you get the job, you work 40 years or something at some place. Like,
Right.
no, thank you for me. That would never work for me. But
Right.
you work, 40 years somewhere and you give them all you got. And then soon you'll be able to retire and buy that RV and go on your trips.
Right. Right.
And I remember our first year around, we were in Mesa Verde, Colorado, which I'd never heard of before. I never learned about that area in school growing up, and I went to a private school, so go figure. But
Right.
it's, the Four Corners region, and it's a beautiful place. And we learned about like the indigenous people in that area, and it's a really,
Yes.
really, really cool place to go with your children if you ever get out there. It's in Colorado,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I was there at the national park. And the first year we went around, we didn't tow a vehicle, so wherever we went, we had to be in our RV. So
Yeah. To be
we
right.
pulled, yeah, exactly. It was the big RVs here. Everybody knows it. So we pulled into the national park, and there was another RV there, and an older gentleman got out of the RV and greeted us. Fellow RVers, we're all like a little club, so it's a
Right.
good little thing. And he was amazed that we were full-timers like he was. And he said, "Oh my God, I wish I would have done it when I was your age, because I waited so long for this moment. I saved all my money. I slaved away. And now I'm here, and my wife can't even get out of the RV because she's sick, and she's,
Mm. Yeah.
she can't walk basically. Um, and I can't climb those stairs to see what's at the top there.
Yeah.
So boy, did I blow it. You guys are
Oh
doing
man.
the right thing." And I remember very vividly this, because I cried, because I thought, for one, I felt so bad for him. And for
Yeah.
two, I felt like, I had won the lottery. Like the fact that I had the notion to live this life and everything lined up perfectly for me to be able to do so. I felt like I had won the lottery. Like this was really living. Like it's not for everybody. I get that people feel comfortable with their stuff, and their house makes them
Right.
feel secure, and their stuff makes them feel secure. And I'm you know what? You do you. You have to do what makes you happy. But
Exactly.
for me, like adventure makes me happy. Excitement makes me happy. Chasing good feelings makes me happy. And
Yeah.
I don't think I ever, ever, ever would have known that or had the courage to do that had I not, completely unraveled and fallen apart. So
Yeah.
that's really the basis, is just like let people, letting people know that it's okay to fall apart. It's okay. And right now in this pandemic, fall apart, please. Let's all just
Right.
fall apart. Let's all fall
Right.
apart in this country. This country is a big ball of mess.
Right.
Let's
To say
let
the
and
least.
it really is, right? Let's all fall apart. Let's let it all go. Shed all the stuff that's weighing us down. And when you get to the inside of each one of us, it's the only thing that's there is love. That's it. Like
Right.
we are not monsters. We are not something to be afraid of what's inside of us. All of us come here with pure love. That's what we are. And
Right.
when we've wrapped ourselves too tightly, we can't exude that love anymore. So for us, coming apart as a person, coming apart as a country, coming apart as a world, that's how it's going to have to be in order for us to even have any form of normalcy again, if you want to call it that, you know?
Right. Exactly, Angie. And one of the things, because there's the other pandemic that's being fought that I think you kind of touch on when you talk
Yes.
about us being, beings of love, and that's,
Yes.
the pandemic of racism and
Absolutely.
social injustice. And so that's come about as we've had the other pandemic of,
So
kind of
yes.
mankind versus virus.
Yes.
Right. And so,
Absolutely.
you've got these both kind of, in a cataclysmic type, fashion colliding with each other. And it's part of that, like you said, that unraveling
Yeah.
that we've got. You saw that with, the Me Too movement, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
you've
Yeah.
seen this with, groups that have always been either marginalized or, completely shut out of
Oh yeah.
things. Those barriers are now coming down, and
It's
that
beautiful.
culture is
Yeah.
beginning to change. And
Yes.
so, to your point, I think all that contributes to that notion of what you said, which is this unraveling, right? There's this awakening
There
that's
is.
taken place, that people are taking a step back and viewing things holistically,
Yes.
and I think that's happening personally, that's happening professionally. I'm hearing now, I'm, in the banking industry, and I'm hearing from people that are moving from big cities now to go back to, smaller
Simpler
roots.
lives.
Yeah,
Yes.
things like that, because, one, technology allows them to be able to work and earn an income. But then people are taking a look at, like you said, why am I in, and this is no knock for New York City, but why am I living in Manhattan paying, $2,200 a month for a closet,
I
right? That I
know.
hate, right? That,
Hmm.
I mean, what am I doing here when I
Yeah.
can go and, like you say, enjoy,
Yeah.
the country, and find my, pursuit of joy and happiness in things that I really want to do, versus
Exactly.
just being pigeonholed into, I work for this company, like you said,
Hmm.
I've got all this
Yeah.
debt,
Yeah.
right? And I'm fighting constantly to, stay ahead of
Maintain
this
it.
debt.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, one of the questions I have for you and for your family, for your husband, is what do you guys do to generate income as you're, on the move and you're moving around the country?
Hmm.
What do you guys do to
Yeah.
kind of keep, some of that afloat, knowing that you don't need it for things, obviously,
Right.
but,
Right.
how are you handling the few expenses that you probably do have?
Yeah. Well, we're actually extremely creative people, so
I love that.
we've always run our own race, and we've always been entrepreneurs. So we've we started our own businesses years ago, and
Yeah,
so that's helped contribute to it. We had a design and marketing company for years, so things from digitally, like websites or graphic design, that sort of stuff falls into that.
sure.
I'm a writer, and I'm also a photographer, so I do a lot with that in terms of selling images, things like that. And my husband's a musician, so there's a lot that goes into that: studio work, recording,
Oh
things like
yeah.
that. So we're definitely not like a conventional family. We're very much artists. We're just artists. So
Sure.
anything that's creative, that's what we do to generate income. And I'll be honest with you, when we first started, I used to worry about it. I used to worry about things. But
Yeah.
as I've grown through life, and as I've unraveled, I really found out that, first of all, nothing's in my control anyways. I can pretend like I control the situation, but
Right.
nothing, I don't control anything. I have to have faith that everything's going to work out for me. I've never
Yeah.
been left high and dry. I don't sit around on my butt either. So I mean, if
Right.
I just sat around saying, wow, money's going to come to me, I'd be broke. But
Right.
I follow whatever inspiration I have. I follow that, and it always leads me to a path of, abundance, and I'm okay. I don't struggle. My daughter is an accomplished artist. She's the one that does the illustrations in my book,
Okay.
and
Awesome.
we
Dig
also had a
that.
children's book that came out in April called "The Hero of Comb One," and she
Okay.
illustrated that completely. It's on Amazon. It's a delightful book about an adorable little bee named Beesme,
Yeah.
and he learns that nothing is more beautiful than being yourself.
Right.
And so
And you
it's
said that's
really
the hero of what?
the
What is it?
hero of comb one,
Come
like
on.
a
Okay.
comb, like a
Yeah.
honeycomb.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on Amazon,
Cool.
and so my daughter illustrated that entire book when she was 16.
Yeah.
She illustrated the artwork that's in the Unravel book. And she has her own comic books that have come out. She wrote and illustrated her own comic books. So as a whole, we're all very, very into creating and being just kind of feeling what we want to feel and doing what we want to do. It sounds hippie-ish, yes, but you know, there's something to it. I think there's something to following your joy, and to it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be what you do always either. That I found that out too. Sidetrack there, but you know, you
Yeah.
might think, oh, this is going to be the thing that I do forever, but
Right.
it might not be. You might just do it for a year, and it might lead you to something else or to someone else that'll take you down a different path in your life. So, I think what's crucial is learning how to know yourself, love yourself, and then listen to yourself as you go down that path. You know.
Yep, absolutely. Angie, I always ask this question of my guests, and I'm really curious to hear your answer from
Okay,
this
I'm
conversation.
nervous.
So, yeah, we're my drum roll. So if I were to give you $100 million, right,
Yes.
cash money, not no strings attached, I just next to your RV, I pull up with a Brinks truck full of cash and
Yeah.
say, Angie, this is all for you guys, right?
Yeah.
What would you do with that money and why?
Wow. Funny
100
enough,
million cash.
yeah, I would probably just continue doing what I'm doing. But I think like my husband and I have talked about this before, especially with my kids. What I'd really like to do is roll through these beautiful cities that we go through, find cities we've never been to before, find
Yeah.
somebody that is making a difference in that city,
Hmm.
and just give them money. Say, here you go. And don't even look at me. You don't need to know who this is, but
Right.
I value you for the value you're bringing to your community.
Mm.
Or find somebody that is struggling and help
Yeah.
them. I don't need anything, so as much as I would appreciate that chunk of money, um,
Right.
I've got everything I need. But so I would give it away. I would definitely, but I do it in a fun way, like
Yeah.
finding little cities that are just magical with somebody that maybe is just magical too, and
Yeah.
give it to them.
Yep. And I can't say I'm surprised at that answer. Having spoken to you now during this episode. Um, yeah, that's just tremendous. Angie Alex is our guest today here on episode 176 of the Minding Your Business podcast. As we wrap up, Angie, because this has
Yes,
been, a tremendous dialogue, just to
I've
say
loved
the
it.
least. I've enjoyed speaking with you. I love your energy and your courage for you and your family to pursue your happiness and your joy. And even some of the most powerful among us, or so-called powerful among us, don't have that level of courage.
Thank you.
What are one or two just best practices? And you've given us a ton of nuggets today, but what are one or two best practices that work for you that you think will help others? Because people are listening to this and they're struggling through all kinds of different things. They're at that point where they're trying to prevent themselves possibly from
From falling
unraveling.
apart. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
They're trying, they're all
Yeah.
over the place trying to keep themselves, instead of just letting themselves unravel and building back up, because they're trying to protect, like I said earlier, they want to protect social media image. They want to
Yeah.
protect, from all these different things that they stress about. What are just one or two things that simply plain have worked well for you, Angie, that
Yes.
you would share with others?
I think for me, I think everything begins in your mind first. So
Yes.
for me, I have always known that if there's a dream I want or something that I want to achieve, I have to visualize it in my mind. I have to see it. I have to feel it. I have to know what it's like. And this happened to me last summer. I, after my after I lost my daughter and all that stuff, I had very, very poor health. And
Yeah.
I had gained a lot of weight and I was so sick. I was the sickest I had been in my life. And
Yeah.
through all of these other unravelings, I became more aware of nutrition and health and holistic healing and things like that. So for me this time last year, I was actually 40 pounds heavier than I am right now.
Yeah.
But I was happy. So there was this beautiful thing about it, because I didn't put my worth in what I weighed or what I looked like or anything like that. It was me. I was me. I was free to just explore who I was.
Yeah.
So I think that was crucial, is getting to love myself. And then I decided that I really wanted to like amp it up. I was in my 40s, and I wanted to be the very best at 40. I wanted to prove everybody wrong that said you're over the hill and
Sure.
you can't be in shape, you can't look good, you can't do this or that. So at night I would go to bed, and I would lay in bed, and I would visualize what it would feel like to be at a specific, where I felt comfortable with myself, what it felt like to try new clothes on again, how would that feel to me? And the only way I can describe it is like freedom.
Yeah.
And I would visualize it, and I would say over and over in my head, I'm so happy and grateful that I weigh blah, blah, blah. And I have the, freedom and the ability. I feel more comfortable with myself, blah, 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 blah. And so I did
Right.
this repeatedly for months in my head. And then just naturally, my body took the path with it, and I was inspired to change my eating. And I no longer eat sugar. I don't eat any sugar. I
Yeah.
don't eat any carbs, really. I work out every single day, and I way past my goal. I passed my goal months ago. And and I'm 100% perfectly comfortable with myself now. um
Sure.
and that all started in my mind. So I would say that's the first thing, is every single thing you want is 100% achievable, but it starts in your mind first, and you
Yes.
have to put feeling with it. If you're just thinking about it, you're just going to keep thinking about it. You've got to put that feeling. The feeling is the power that moves the universe. So you
Yes.
have to do that. And then I would say just find out who you are. Find out what is so beautiful about you. There's something that is just perfect about you. And there's never going to be another you. There hasn't been another you. So
Yeah.
dive into that, like whatever it is. And I understand this is harder for some people. Some people have been told negative things their entire life, that now their
Hmm.
internal dialogue is negative, and all they
Yes.
do is rag on themselves and tell themselves that they're ugly or they're dumb or they're this or that. So I understand this is harder for some people than it is for others. But if you have to start at one thing, find one thing. If you're a good friend, start with that. Tell
Yeah.
yourself every single day in the mirror, I am a good friend. I am worthy because I'm a good friend. And then you'll start to figure out a few more things about yourself. I'm worthy because I'm a survivor. I'm worthy because I'm a great mom. I'm worthy because I care about people. And
Hmm.
whatever else starts to go, there you are, knitting this beautiful dialogue of yourself back to who you truly are. And that is what you have to do. Change the inner dialogue and tell yourself what you really need to hear, which is you're beautiful, you're perfect, and you are so loved.
Yes, definitely. And one of the quotes that I've always kind of hung on, Angie, in regards to what you said is, you're the very best you who will ever exist, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
And that's something that I've always lived with, for a while now, and
Yeah.
that definitely helps me. And I think that people, should always know that they're the very
Absolutely.
best them that will ever exist. And so
Yes.
you make your history, or your story,
Yeah.
not his story, your story, every day. And
Every
so
day.
every day is an opportunity for you to, to contribute to the things that bring you joy and peace and happiness. And so,
Yes. And what you
yeah,
do
it's
when you do
incredible.
that is you spread that joy and you spread that love to other people,
Yes.
whether you know you're doing it or not. Maybe you're just doing it because it feels good to you. But what you're doing in that joy and that peace and that love is it's spreading to other people, and other people around you will say, wow, that feels good. I like that feeling. I want to do it too.
Yeah.
And
Right.
the next thing you know, you've just impacted, 10 people, 20 people, 1,000 people, whatever it is. And so it's really not just for you. It's for the collective good. It's for everybody. When you start to love yourself, you actually start to love everybody.
Yeah, exactly. And that's such a great way to cap this off, Angie, just to say the least. I mean, that's incredible. And so when will the book be available? And then how can we all get it, to be
Sure. So
supportive?
it's going to be released on August 1st.
Awesome.
So
Right around
there
the
is
corner.
a yes, just right around the corner. There's a pre-order on Amazon,
Okay.
or you can go to my website. There's
Yes.
there's a link there also. And I think later this week, there's going to be a link on the website where you can actually order the paperback on the website and get a signed copy too.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, that's what's up.
Yes.
So that's
Yeah.
website is Ange Alex. That's
Yes. Uh-huh. Yep.
ANGEALEX.com,
Yes.
MYB community. So what I want everyone to do is go to the website, do that today. When you get done listening to this episode, go to the website, check that out, reach out to Angie, give her a good
Definitely.
positive word, and let her know that you heard her right here on the Mind Your Business podcast.
Perfect. And I got my hat
also,
right here.
yes. That's what. And so I want to end with what Angie is showing here. For those listening to the podcast, you need to go to YouTube so you can see it. But for those that are watching the video, Angie has a hat that essentially has our slogan. There's no business like minding your own business. And that's our slogan here on the Minding Your Business podcast. And so she got that some time back and she's wearing it now, which I love. That's a tremendous hat. That's a great hat. And I always love that slogan. It's a part of the culture here with the Minding Your Business podcast. So thanks so much, Angie, for sharing that. That's awesome.
Yes.
I love
definitely.
it. Yeah. So listen, Angie, I can't thank you enough. This has been a tremendous conversation. I think many people are helped by this conversation. Everybody that's listening to the podcast, wherever you are. But again, I encourage you all to reach out to Angie. I mean, just, you can see a beautiful soul. And I think someone that would love to hear from you and love to hear your story. And
I'd love to.
Yeah, and I'd love for everyone that possibly can to get the book and get just the signed copy. So go on later this week and get you a signed copy. But get a copy and read it, and then share your thoughts and share your story and that sort of thing with Angie. And again, let her know that you heard her right here. So Angie, listen, I know you're busy with many different things, but I appreciate you taking time out, and hope to remain connected. And definitely learn more because I learned several things just in this conversation with you that I'll be able to take back and apply. So thank you again, Angie, and definitely best wishes to you. And if you find I can be a resource, I'm certainly here. So
thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to hearing from everybody out there, your stories of unraveling, and let's love each other together, right?
Yep, there you go. Our guest today, Ange Alex, the author of Unraveled. Make sure you go to, again, angealex.com and get your copy. Let's support her in this specific endeavor, MYB, okay? All right, so thank you so much again to our guest.
Thank you.
And a couple things for you, MYB. Go to brandyourpod.com. I'm your podcast partner. Now's the time to launch your own podcast. That idea that you've been sitting on. Your target audience wants to hear your voice. They want to hear your story. And what better way to do so than on your own podcast? So go to brandyourpod.com and let's do a no cost consultation, and let's get your podcast rolling. I've been able to do that for, as you all know, several of my bank partners that I work with, as well as now some great individuals. So shout out to those folks that have reached out to me, and we're in the process of getting their podcast set up. Don't forget the demo for Leverage. That's leveragecalc.com. But email me. You guys know my email, ron@themybpodcast.com. Email me. I want to get you the link to this software, financial software to help you manage in your business and manage your real estate portfolio, and give you some advantage when you have conversations with your lender. Like we talked about with Angie today, it's about how are you managing things. So if you're looking to grow your business through a loan, you don't want to just do that blind and be stuck with a payment that doesn't make sense. So make sure that you can understand financially what makes sense for you and help you even in that negotiation. So I want to be able to show you the software. The demo is Wednesday, August the 5th at noon. It'll be live. And so if you email me, if you can't make it on the 5th, that's fine. I will send you the link so that you can watch it at your leisure. But it's great software for anybody that will be looking to engage their lender on acquiring assets and that sort of thing, if that's what you choose to do. So want to be a resource for you in that regard. Listen, I'm going to get out of here. This has been episode 176, again, of the Minding Your Business podcast. Thanks again to our tremendous guest, Ange Alex. Just phenomenal conversation. I hope you all really enjoy that, and I hope you connect with her here very soon. But I'm going to get out of here. Enjoy the rest of your day. And remember, we all have three things in common. No matter how we look in the mirror, no matter what side of the tracks we come from, we all want to be better for ourselves, better for our family, and better for our communities. Champ Ron, the Minding Your Business podcast.